Second person forces you to empathize. And if you're already empathetic with the character, then it forces you to empathize even more. Hey guys, I'm Michelle. Welcome back to my channel. If writing workshops and traditional publishing talk are your thing, please consider subscribing. So today I want to talk about you. Yes, you behind the camera. Last year when I started this channel, one of the first videos I did, I think it was like the 5th video I did, was about the 3 different points of view or perspectives. First person, second person, third person. Using the camera analogy to better understand them. If you feel like you still struggle with the basics of the difference between these 3 point of views, I encourage you to go back and watch that video because I really get into the details a little bit more, and I have a workshop exercise for you at the end to help you better understand the differences. This video is going to be about what is by far the least often used point of view, which is second person. But it's also going to be about using second person and understanding second person to improve your first person and your third person narrative. I am not telling you to consider writing your next novel entirely in second person. Very few novels do this. Even fewer do it to great effect, and there's a reason for that. Second person makes for a somewhat odd, unsettling reading experience. But I want to make 2 points in my case for why you should try experimenting with second person. 1, it will help you recognize the mistakes, the most common mistakes that writers make when they're writing in first person and second person. And 2, just like shifting verb tenses in your novel from scene to scene, you might want to use second person as a sort of special effect. And I'll show you an example a little later of exactly what I mean. But first, let's talk about those common mistakes that I mentioned earlier. In my writing workshops, most of my students understand the very basic difference between first and third person. First person uses the pronoun I, and third person uses he, she, they. And it's true that if you want to change the story that you're writing from one perspective to another, for a lot of sentences, you will just change the pronoun and that will be enough. But that's not going to be true for every single line in your story. And if you're really considering doing that with a project that you're working on right now, I would really encourage you to actually start from scratch and rewrite it in this new perspective without referencing your old version. This is why I chose the camera analogy for that video I told you about, because I really do think that it helps to think about the perspective that you're choosing for your story from the analogy of if you were a director and your story is a movie, what are you doing with the camera? What are you focusing on? And what are you drawing your reader's attention to? And what are you drawing your reader's attention away from? If you're writing in first person, your main character is in control of the camera. She is drawing your reader's attention to what she wants. She is controlling the narrative. The narrative is hers. It's first person. She, and therefore the reader, can't see outside of this frame. And I'm not just talking about what the character literally can see. I'm talking about her worldview. Her opinion, her interpretation of everything that she's seeing. That's what your reader gets. We live in her head. In third person, the camera is mostly focused on the main character, but she's unaware of it. It's a little bit less intimate because while we do get her opinions and her thoughts, we aren't actually inside her head. And this is where things get really interesting. In first person, the narration is colored by opinion and bias. As a reader, you have this extra layer to your reading experience where you understand that you're seeing everything through the filter that this character is providing with her bias, and you're trying to see through that to the objective reality of the story. But with third person, that filter doesn't exist. You do get the protagonist's inner thoughts, but those are her actual unfiltered thoughts. They aren't changed or altered in any way by what she wants you to think, because she's not aware that you, the reader, are there. To put it a simpler way, in third person, you read what the character is thinking. In first person, you read what the character is telling you she's thinking. Sometimes there's no difference, but sometimes there is. There's a real nuance there that takes time and practice to understand and to master in your writing. And if you're confused right now, you're not alone. This is tricky stuff. As always, I will say that my number one recommendation for getting better at this and learning more about this is to read critically. Read books that are written in first person, read books that are written in third person, but really turn on your analytical mind and look at certain sentences and ask yourself, how could this be different if it was written in a different perspective? And that brings me back to my point where I really think that writing in second person can help you really master these differences between first and third. Because second person is so odd and uncomfortable to write in and to read in that it doesn't allow you to settle into just thinking, oh, it's just about the pronouns and I don't have to think about where the camera is. It forces you to think about where the camera is because you're putting the camera in the reader's hands. Think about, again, movies where the camera is literally in the hands of a main character and it turns you, an audience member, into a participant in the story. This has a huge effect on the viewing experience. It's unsettling, it's different, it's urgent. I'd even say it creates sometimes a sort of claustrophobic feeling, and it's the same with writing and reading in second person. And now we're at my second reason for encouraging you to try writing in second person, which is that you can use it as a really cool kind of special effect in your writing. As an example, let's look at the novel Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray. This is the third book in the Diviner series. These books are written in third person past tense. I would say mostly third person limited, but a significant number of scenes are in omniscient POV. And again, it's pretty much always in past tense. And here we are, almost 100 pages into book 3, and we get a chapter in second person present tense. It's not a very long scene, and we're told it's a dream, a memory of a traumatic event. And in the very next scene, we learn which character is having this dream as we switch back to third person. So why the choice to write this dream in second person? Why not write it in third person? Could it have worked in third person? Absolutely yes. And I can't speak on the author's behalf and tell you why she chose second, but I can tell you how I interpreted it and how it affected my experience as a reader. Throughout the series, the trauma this character, Theta, has carried has been hinted at very strongly. She's a guarded character, but slowly we learned that she ran away from something and someone, and she's created a new life and name for herself that is ultimately a disguise, a way to hide. By the time we get to this reveal of the details of what happened back then in book 3, we have a pretty good idea of what went down. If this chapter had started in third person past, and as a reader I realized, okay, this is about Theta, we're about to find out the full details of what happened way back then, it would have worked. I would have been interested, but I wouldn't have been surprised because I've already painted a pretty clear picture in my mind from all the hints that have been dropped up to this point of what happened to Theta. And it's true, nothing in this scene about what happened to her actually surprised me. But reading it in second person, that really changed everything. It ramped up the tension. It caused me to ask questions and piqued my curiosity because at first I wasn't sure who this scene was about. And then even once I started to suspect and eventually realized before the scene was over that it must be about Theta, this scene made me horrified and sympathetic to that experience in a way that third person wouldn't have done. Second person forces you to empathize. And if you're already empathetic with the character, then it forces you to empathize even more. It just ramps it up a level because this is happening to you. And again, don't forget that she also shifted into present tense here. So this memory, this trauma, went from something that happened to Theta in the past to something that is happening to you right now. Like I said, it's a special effect. Is it necessary? No. But does it enhance and add to the reading experience? Very, very much so. So I'm sure you can guess what today's writing workshop activity is going to be. I want you to take a scene from whatever project you're currently working on. Ideally, choose a scene that's giving you some problems, either in that you're not sure what your character is thinking during the scene, or you're having problems identifying more objectively what's going on in this scene in regards to the action. And try writing it in second person. Take that camera and hold it up to your own eyes and live through this experience that you're trying to write yourself and see what comes into view. If you do this exercise, let me know how it went in the comments below. And if this video was helpful, I would appreciate it if you hit that like button. That's it for this workshop. I will see you guys on Friday with another vlog. And until then, keep writing.